Morning and welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Maria Sadia.
And I'm Lourdes Laper. Stay with us right to the end for some practical practices you can use right away.
Yeah, so today we're talking about that tiny, almost constant friction that seals your peace. That feeling that, or it's like when your colleague starts chewing loudly, or the driver cuts you off, or your partner leaves their socks on the floor. And it's the small stuff that makes you roll your eyes or grit your teeth and feel that hot flare of resentment. And you tell yourself it's just the socks, but inside you're thinking, you're fuming, they just don't respect me. They're disrespecting me.
Yeah. Then, maybe you'll recognize that feeling of stewing, that private annoyance, right? We've all been there. It's draining and exhausting. And we walk around carrying this invisible weight of judgment, acting as the silent, superior critic of everyone around us. It's embarrassing, really. But and we think, right? We can get into this pattern of thinking that, oh, if they would change this one small thing, then everything would be perfect, right? And that little bit of irritation is what we want to dissect today.
Right, exactly. Because, the truth is getting angry over someone's flaws, it doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone. And, if you use your reason to guide instead of judging, um, this is a profound stoic insight, and it forces you to ask difficult questions. It's about this probing question: what's the reward you get from being angry? Is it fixing the problem, or is it just proving to yourself that that you're right and that they're wrong? Think about that. We're going to show you how you can trade that destructive anger for quiet, powerful peace.
Yeah, we waste colossal amounts of energy on things that we can't control. We focus on the external flaw, the noise, the smell, the mess, and we let it steal our inner peace. And, we think our annoyance is a tool, but it's really a trap. And, when was the last time anger magically cleaned up a mess or made a rude person kind? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and here's the toxic false narrative that it just keeps us stuck. I deserve a perfect environment, and their flaw, right, is an attack on my right to peace. And it's the belief that you should be able to control how other people are showing up in your world. And you want to think it's only your world. Like people are, you know, actors in your world. But that belief is a pure illusion. You can, you can control where you put your socks, right? But you can't control theirs. You can control your table manners, but you're not going to control their loud chewing.
Yeah, somehow I'm going to diverge a little bit, Maria, but this brings to mind the Odd Couple, right? Him, one of the characters, I don't know their names, being super messy and the other one being a super neat freak. And it's this, like, we deal with this in our lives, in different relationships, right? We want someone to be a certain way and we get bent out of shape because they're not. And it's this trying to control, right? It's this false belief, I have to control my environment to be okay. And it forces us into an exhausting role of like the silent critic. Oh, you didn't pick up after yourself. Oh, you didn't do that. Oh, you didn't, whatever it is, you didn't hang up the towel. You didn't put the toilet seat down. I could go on, but I won't.
Well, you said the silent critic, but that's not silent.
So we sit in judgment often without saying a single word, believing that our superior annoyance is somehow virtuous. But the judgment just makes us bitter, isolated, and it ruins our own present moment, which is the only moment we actually ever have.
Right. It's being again in the present. But, we've got to learn to stop being the critic. The goal is to move from the judgment, which is can be passive, can be silent, to, to guidance, right? Which is active and constructive. We have to get away from being destructive to them and to ourselves and to the relationships. So we have to choose to guide, right? To be in a guidance and a feedback. And you really have two choices. You can stew in annoyance and you'll end up losing your peace, or you can step up with compassion and keep your peace regardless of the outcome.
Mm, yeah. And so, let's slow down and look at the emotional root. Why do we leap into anger instead of reason? Because anger is easier. It gives us a quick, satisfying hit of moral superiority. It's easier to label the other person as flawed or disrespectful or inconsiderate than it is to look at our own fear of being imperfectly human.
Right, right. We don't want to look inside, right? We're afraid of that. But the anger, it's really, it's not about the socks or about the chewing. It's about the belief or constraint that you're holding on to, the story that says, um, if I'm a good person, my life must be organized and there should be no chaos. And their flaw is threatening your carefully constructed and manicured identity. And when you get angry, you're fighting their reality because it conflicts with your own internal rule book of how things should actually be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, we go into these stories and give their behavior meaning, right? Uh, and
Hmm.
and we make it mean that, oh, that they're just respecting us. But
Hmm.
that's our inner narrative, right? And so what is the payoff of your anger? The payoff is that you get to feel right. You get to feel better than. But that feeling of righteousness is fleeting. And the emotional cost, the bitterness, the tension, the loss of peace is enormous. And you're choosing a brief moment of being right over a lifetime of being peaceful.
Right. And, just for a little more clarity, let's shift this perspective with a metaphor. So, if we need to stop viewing people's flaws as personal attacks and start seeing them more like unpredictable weather. And if you think about it, when you step outside and it's raining, you don't stand there and scream, "Oh, the freaking rain is disrespecting my outfit," right? So that's not
Or
gonna happen.
or the humidity is deliberately trying to ruin my hair. Yeah. No, you accept the rain as a fact of nature. It's outside your control. You simply grab an umbrella, your guidance, or move indoors, your self-preservation.
Right. And the same stoic logic applies to people. Their flaw, the chewing, the lateness, the poor communication, even their muttering, right, is just their emotional weather. It's their emotional, like weather pattern right now. It's a fact of their current nature. So if you have zero control over the weather system. When you think about that, you only have control of your own preparation.
Right. Your response, right? So the choice is, do you stand outside with a raincoat getting soaked, stewing in anger, or do you reach for the umbrella of reason and offer gentle guidance to yourself, to others? And the act of choosing compassion over anger is simply recognizing this is their weather, but I don't have to get
Mhm.
wet. And we maintain our dignity by refusing to let their unpredictable system dictate our internal climate.
Right. And we really want you to get this. One of the deepest roots we're pulling out is the belief that love requires control. We believe that if our partner truly loved us, they wouldn't leave a mess. That if our friend really valued us, they wouldn't be late. And this creates a, conditional love based on a requirement for perfection. And compassion is deciding to love or to respect the person while accepting their, current weather pattern. And forgiveness isn't pretending the rain isn't happening. It's choosing not to be angry when the sky is wet.
Mm. And that shift from judgment to observation is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It allows you to move from passive
Mhm.
critic to active participant. And if you see the rain is heavy, you guide them gently. Hey, I noticed you missed the deadline. Let's talk about a system we can put in place to prevent this next time. And if they refuse to use the umbrella you offered, you maintain your boundary, right? And that's self preservation. You
Yeah.
still keep your peace because you did your part and you led with humanity.
Right. I like that. We spend a lot of time on this because it's a quiet killer of peace. It isn't just about the loud chewing, it's about the decades of emotional energy you spend trying to control instead of being present and being loving and being, you know, relating to people and getting intimate with people. You spend that time trying to control the uncontrollable. And you think about the cumulative costs and the compounding interest of every small annoyance you've silently held. And it's it's like when you look at how you've held this annoyance and you held it in silence against someone, it's absolutely devastating to your inner life and to their inner lives as well.
Mm. Yeah, that simmering resentment, that low grade hostility, it literally poisons your relationships. You think you're protecting yourself by holding the grudge, but all you're doing is putting up a shield that keeps love and connection out. And you're not just keeping out the offense, right? The bitterness we
Mhm.
feel is the cold comfort of being right. But that coldness is what freezes your heart. It makes you an unpleasant guest in your own life.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. And, another thing to consider is the possibility that you're addicted to the grievance because sometimes we hold on to the anger because, it feels like a purpose. It gives us some sort of identity and purpose. And it gives us a sense of moral superiority. If they're wrong and I'm angry, then I must be right. And so the problem is that our ego, it likes to be right, it likes nothing better than to be right. But that small fleeting satisfaction that you're getting from getting angry is keeping you chained to their flaws. It's actually an act of deep self-betrayal.
Which is why we need to talk about forgiveness as the ultimate act of self self-interest,
Mm.
that self-preservation, right? This isn't a religious concept. It's a practical Stoic tool for freedom. Forgiveness is not excusing, their behavior, and it's absolutely not a gift you give the other person. It's the emotional debt you cancel for yourself. When you forgive their flaw, you're choosing to release yourself from the contract you wrote that says, I will hold on to this pain until you change. And you free yourself from that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I hear you say that, and I think, well, that's just nuts, right? That's just crazy holding on to it. But, that contract is a form of attachment to an outcome. The very Eastern philosophies, the Eastern philosophies, they like Zen, they warn against that. Your anger is an attachment to the required reality that they must be on time, or that that they must be tidy, or that they shouldn't chew so loud, whatever it is. The only way to find freedom is to non-attach, to let go of that requirement. You accept the weather just as it is, which immediately neutralizes its power over you.
Hmm. Yeah, and this realization is the moment you step into your full power. You realize their flaw is a fact of their nature, but my peace is a choice of mine. The act of letting go is an instant declaration of independence, right? You are saying, I will not let your actions continue to dictate the quality of my inner life, even for one more minute.
You know, that's truly empowering when you start to view life this way, because it's a powerful existential choice. You are free. You're always free to choose peace over the pettiness of judgment. And the path to a lighter heart isn't a journey to change them. It's a decision made right here, right now, to choose to move forward without the resentment. It's the ultimate expression of leading with compassion and humanity. So I want to go into, and I really hope that you get this, but I want to switch a little bit and go into what's happening in the brain, right? Because when you feel that hot surge of anger or irritation, the amygdala, that threat center, it's activated. It doesn't care if the threat is a bear or somebody chewing loudly. It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, and this is the physiological cost of judgment. You're basically poisoning your body.
Right. But when you pause and consciously choose reason, when you reframe the flaw as unpredictable weather, you activate your prefrontal cortex, your calm, rational CEO. And this immediately sends signals to the amygdala to stand down, preventing the cortisol dump.
Yeah. So this is also neuroplasticity in action, because every time you consciously choose, instead of, you consciously choose to guide gently instead of lashing out, you're strengthening the neural pathway for peace and also for resilience. And you're literally training your brain to stop reacting and start responding. And the the Stoic practice is the highest form of cognitive reframing, allowing you to use your reason to chemically calm your body instead of going into the fight or flight state.
Yes. So, how do we apply this? How do we stop being the emotional victim of someone else's flaws? Here's the compassion pivot, a 4-step framework you can start using today. First, stop the surge by using an anchor. The instant you feel that eye roll, that tension, that rush of anger, use a physical anchor. Stop what you're doing and say, this is just weather, and feel your feet on the floor. Take one small, silent, slow breath. And this disengages the emotional amygdala. And next, name the pattern with observation. Objectively observe the flaw without using judgment words. Instead of saying, oh, he's so selfish for being late, try, lateness is a fact of his nature right now. And this is the ultimate cognitive reframing. It makes the issue impersonal.
Yeah, and let's go to the next section. Engage the guide with candor. If the flaw impacts you and you have control to speak, use the candor filter. Be real, not performative. Use I statements in a private conversation. I feel distracted when the dishes are left out. Can we agree on a system? I personally have a little thing on my dishwasher that says dirty and clean, so there's no argument. And remember, you control the clarity of your voice, not the volume of their compliance. And then practice immediate forgiveness with peace. This is the final and most, it's the most crucial step. Whether they change or not, you immediately let go of the emotional residue. You've done your part. You led with humanity and compassion. You keep your dignity. You choose peace over being right. Now, you don't have to live your life holding on to grudges or playing the judge and the critic. We understand that. We understand that's a burden that only punishes you. And compassion is choosing understanding over that irritation.
Yeah. And we'll leave you with this bit of wisdom from our soon to be released book, A Path to Resilience, Small Steps to an Unshakable You. Getting angry over someone else's flaws doesn't help. Use your reason to guide, not judge.
Your peace is sacred. Remember that. It's your most valuable possession. So don't waste your life holding on to frustration instead of speaking up or letting go. Lead with humanity. Lead with compassion. Choose forgiveness, choose candor, and let that be enough.
Remember this. The world is full of flaws and chaos, but your inner peace is paramount. Keep it. Thanks for being here. We're walking this path right alongside you. Take care of your heart, take care of your mind, take care of yourself. Support our work by liking, following, subscribing, and sharing this with someone who needs a reminder that they're stronger than they think they are. We'll see you next time.